Um,
And then invitation just to have yourself
on
on
there.
mute. We will have times where we have a
How
chance
you
to
doing?
chime in and speak. And for now, just on mute. So hello, as you're entering, as you're arriving, welcome. Beautiful to see you. We're using the chat to introduce ourselves and say who we are, where we're calling
How do you
from, and
get
we're
the
just we're
camera?
starting to see the diversity of presence that we have here. We've got Joy from Central New Jersey. Steve's calling in from Tucson. Hi, Steve. Hi, Anstein from Ashland, Oregon. Always amazing to see you. Liz is calling from the Northern Arapaho, Eastern Shoshone, and Cheyenne areas of Wyoming in the USA. Good to see you. Hi, Susan. Susan calling from North Carolina. Good to see you. Liz is in Honolulu. And we're gonna record this celebration, this conversation for anyone who is not able to be with us today. And so just so you know, we have recording on and going, and that will happen throughout our time together.
All right.
There's thunder.
All right. So, hi, hello. Just take a moment to look around on the screen. We've got 2 full pages of folks, and my sense is that will continue to grow during our time together today. And notice familiar faces, beloved ones. Also notice new faces. And curiosity about, what's everybody's connection here to Rad Joy? And why was it important to us to gather today to celebrate, and to also honor transition? So just really starting to take that in as we continue to arrive. And we're going to shift into a second conversation in the chat. So we're taking an opportunity to say hello and let each other know where we're calling in from. And also, we're going to take a dip into like the heart, the central philosophy, something that we really believe quite deeply in, with Rad Joy, something that Trebi has led and guided us into centering in our lives, which is this simple question of like, what are the places that you love? Who are the species that you love? And that perhaps you have some concern for, some concern about. So now in the chat, let's also start to add, what are some of the places, who are some of the species that you love, that you feel concern for, that have your attention, that continue to capture the story of your heart and maybe even motivate you into a space of service and belonging? And as these stories are starting to arrive in the chat, an invitation to approach them with some poetry, this beauty of what's arriving. So I'll read some of them out loud as we go, as they continue to accumulate. That we love the earth as a sacred being with ourselves as the sensing elements. Beautiful. We're concerned about human beings, wolves, buffalo, salmon, many, many, many places, and I'm concerned about all of them. Forests, oceans, birds, bears, and bugs, the forests everywhere that are dying due to climate change. There's so many places to be concerned about, from local land here, the Cascade Siskiyou National Monument, and then the butterflies that are unique to this area, and like so much more. The Amazon rainforest, coral reefs, old growth forests, elephants, whales, bees, trees, birds, soil, children, Lake Superior, humanity, red tail hawk, live oak trees, honey bees. So many waters, forests, endangered native water birds. The poetry of Hildegard, of Bingen, of Wendell Berry, of Naomi Shihab Nye. The mountains, the creek. We're concerned about war, about perpetual conflict, and the birds that migrate. All right, so we can keep those stories, let them arrive, let them come as they come, as we continue to spend this time together inside of this beautiful, emergent, spontaneous community of celebration. So my name is Amy Tuttle, and I'm a proud and happy, excited band member for Radical Joy for Hard Times. And I know Trebi through the Wilderness Guides Council, and she quickly and deeply became one of my favorite humans. And just as we all know, brings such a force of joy and humor and also gravitas to the world that is quite a marvel to be in proximity to. And so really honored to be our host for today. And this role will be shared as well. So there's some other folks who are really supporting the process of this celebration, including just taking a moment to say a big thank you to Katie Case. Katie is our tech wizard for today, and we could not do this without Katie's consistency, dedication, and also some of the practice rounds that we've had around sharing media and things like that. So Katie, thank you so much for supporting us in this endeavor today. And let's talk about radical joy for hard times. What is that? What is it all about? What is heart of the matter for radical joy? And what we know, what we've learned over time, over the history since 2009, about Rad Joy for Hard Times is that it's all about having the courage to face what is broken, what is lost, what is endangered on earth, on earth. So that which is broken, lost, endangered. And we've heard some of those stories already today. We're feeling them, we're centering them in our somas, in our bodies, in our memory, and in our hopes for the future as well. And Rad Joy encourages us to find ways to connect with what we love, to honor it, and to bring beauty back to it, to bring beauty back to it. Beauty being one of the amazing and unique tools, beauty making, that humans can bring into any scenario, any place, any story, any timeline. So when Trebby Johnson founded Radical Joy for Hard Times in 2009, a lot of people thought it was kind of a strange idea. Like, what's Trebby up to now? Yet, as thousands of people around the world have had a chance to encounter this strange idea of radical joy for hard times, it's proven its own point. It's proven its own point that taking care of the places that we love after they have been damaged is in fact a concept to embrace. And so for about 16 years now, we've blazed this path in ways that have engaged and touched our entire worldwide community. And I'm really excited for you today to get a sense of the depth and the breadth of this impact. It's really very significant. We've had thousands, in fact, of engagements around the world over the past years. So the Global Earth Exchange is a really essential aspect or component of Radical Joy for Hard Times. And it's been going on for 15 years now. And in a little while, you'll get to see a slideshow of just some of the really amazing events, people, stories, and moments that have emerged from Global Earth Exchanges. Rad Joy has put out a weekly newsletter called Radical Joy Revealed. Our monthly online program is called the Earth Exchange Cafe, and it brings you into conversations with noted artists, writers, activists, ecologists, and wraps you into those stories, inspires you, motivates you, gives you skills and tools, language for doing this work of connecting beautifully with places and species that we love that have been damaged. And Earth Hospice Rights is another program of Radical Joy for Hard Times. And Earth Hospice Rights is a twice monthly program that runs just about 20 minutes long, short and sweet, yet it offers an online refuge to face our grave concerns, our serious concerns, our eco-anxiety, the ways in which bravely facing damage and change can evoke concern. And so Earth Hospice Rights supports people in that effort. And you can learn about all of these, and I'm going to drop this link in the chat. If you don't already have it or haven't had a chance in a while to visit our website, please do, radicaljoy.org. And you're always welcome to join us for any of these efforts. We love to see you and to engage with you in those ways. So we've also done 4 special programs. And we're going to just take a moment to share those with you, including some images so that you can really get a sense, get a feel. So this first picture, this is of Gulf Coast Rising. Gulf Coast Rising. And Gulf Coast Rising was an event in 2010 that was a day of music and friendship for people in the 7 states who have experienced loss as a result of the BP oil spill. Among participants was the renowned Treme brass band at their Voodoo Festival concert in New Orleans. So you can just feel, looking at this picture, like the vibe, the sense of joy, the beautiful use of music and culture to not only celebrate, but to acknowledge and experience loss. And this is the path that Trebi has created for us, that so many people are excited to engage in. Then we also have this beautiful project called The Ground Beneath Our Hearts, The Ground Beneath Our Hearts. And in 2015, we gave small grants to 10 communities around the world that have been severely impacted by fossil fuel extraction, which we know has a huge impact all over the world. Participating communities were in Azerbaijan, the Philippines, Australia, South Africa, Ireland, the indigenous Amazon, and several places in the United States. And so for this program, John and Jackson Kusiak wrote a really special song, and were invited to these communities to sing. And here's an excerpt. This is an excerpt from the gathering in West Virginia that was really profoundly hurt by mountaintop mining. Those of us who I live in proximity to Appalachia and can just really empathize with the devastation of mountaintop mining in the region.
When you love something so much, part of you is part of that earth. My little piece of earth is now surrounded by a rock quarry. Oh. And so every day when I go home, my heart aches to see the place I love being blown up. Oh. But the other thing I think about with that little ball of clay is, in its first form, it was very soft and malleable. But then through manipulations and being exposed to certain things, it's turned into something very hard. I used to be very, shy and backward until I saw the earth being destroyed by mountaintop removal. And so I've become tough. I've become tough in fighting the bad.
What have we found? No matter the cost, we will never surrender the crown beneath our heart.
Something really deep and significant happened that day, and that it was more than an art installation, and it was more than a remembering miners. It was just a very special event in their community.
También fue muy pertinente realizarlo porque algunos de los estudiantes han dejado la escuela por irse a trabajar a las balsas, interesándose más por el conocimiento occidental que el conocimiento ancestral. Hacer esta actividad fue una manera de revitalizar la cultura, porque los chicos se interesaron en aprender los cantos, ir hasta el monte a traer la corteza para hacer el traje, tejerlo y así aprender la importancia de lo que significa hacer un baile.
South Africa, 12 September 2015.
So invitation to use the chat again to share some of, how is this making you feel? What does it connect to inside of your experience of radical joy, or just your human experience in this moment? What's coming up for you as you learn about these efforts? Another really beautiful project is called Raise a Glass to the Catskills. And in 2017, people in New York's Catskills Mountains had lost their homes, their livelihoods early in the 1900s when the creeks were dammed and reservoirs were built to provide drinking water to New York City. And this is something that we see pretty often around large cities, is that dams and reservoirs really cut off the people's access to water. And so for this tribute, we invited New Yorkers to raise a glass of their exceptionally pure drinking water to the people of the Catskills, to whom the loss remains painful. It's still painful to this day. And so Trebby and Polly Howells roamed one day through New York Central Park, armed with water and glasses, and they asked people to raise a glass of water. And here's a picture of Polly, who's also on this call today. Another beautiful project is the Global Day of Mourning. And so most recently in 2021, we presented a day-long online program to come together and acknowledge all of the losses that we have all faced during the COVID epidemic and pandemic. And so the program included discussions, facilitated breakout rooms. The Oneida community, which has been really involved in the beginning in the history of Radical Joy for Hard Times, had a ceremony of lament as well. And what we know about grief is that joy closely follows. And so we dipped into grief and we faced it. And then the Global Day of Mourning in 2021 ended with everyone dancing, as it should. All right, so gonna start to shift here toward really taking some time with Trebby and with Trebby's amazing contribution over the last 16 years. And I'm gonna shift over the host role for a little bit to Christy Strickland, who many of us know and deeply love. Christy has worked with places of grief and challenge for her entire career, including the criminal justice system, camp for children whose parents have passed away and died, hospice and health environments. And she's currently the co-director, we call her the weaver of the wilderness, the net keeper of the Wilderness Guides Council. And she's launching also a business to train others to become more effective facilitators. She's one of the founding members of Radical Joy for Hard Times, and for several years now, she's participated in the Global Earth Exchange. She takes Naropa University students to a local coal plant. And as you know, if you know Christy is like a force for all things beautiful and good in the world. So without further ado, passing over to Christy.
Ew, awesome. Oh, thank you so much for that, Amy. My heart is just pounding and just loving seeing everybody here today. Yeah, what a gift to be able to offer this tribute and this introduction. So vibrant, wholehearted, fierce, visionary, devoted, tenacious, stalwart, committed maverick, bright, shining, wise, sorceress, limbic dancer, moon basket. Trevi, these are just some of the words your community offered to describe you, how you are seen through the eyes of people who know and love you. And I'm going to be sharing more of these as we go along. So we're in this threshold moment where Trevi has stepped down as executive. Am I muted? Okay. All right. Radical Joy for Hard Times and Trevi both enter new life phases. But before looking forward, I want to take us back to an origin story, the creation of the RadJoy logo. The first board, which we decided to call the band, met in Cazenovia, New York in the spring of 2010. Band member Eugene Hughes guided us through what was going to be a collective art project that we hoped would result in a logo. I can still see the light coming in through the window, the paper rolled out on the floor, art supplies strewn about. I can see Joanna Burgess there to my left. And we were to each hold the Radjoy vision in our hearts and add to the paper with varying degrees of art skills. To make a long story short, it was really quite a mess. A tangle of images and shapes and colors, and I was really not very hopeful. And yet, we stuck with the mess. We took it outside, of course. We held it up, and just all of a sudden, the image lifted clear as day from the page. There was just this collective gasp from the group as we realized it was a bird, a mythical bird, to be sure, with an owl for an ear and lots of shapes and images and energy coming from its heart and throat area. It was clearly singing out to the world. And so now, in addition to all of the acts of beauty that people bring, as you've seen in the slides already, song, art, prayer, dance, our tears, the Radjoy bird has been singing its magical song to wounded places on every continent, places that might otherwise be ignored or turned away from. So that moment when we discovered the logo, it was really quite magical. And Trebi brings that. Stick with the mess, bring it your loving attention, and something unexpected and quite beautiful can emerge. It's really empowering in hard times. Trebi had a vision of radical joy for hard times, and it percolated for many years. And she shows us what can happen when you allow yourself to feel the absolute conviction of your visions and bring vision and action together. Both bold action, but also the steady daily tasks, those devotional type actions, to keep it going in spite of the naysayers, even if discouraged, when you've made mistakes, even when the world at large does not understand the gift that you are bringing them. And of course, in this case, all of the challenges naturally inherent in operating a nonprofit. Trevi reminds us that when you meet an obstacle, just keep learning and growing and going with dogged determination. And if it's with technology, just keep Googling. And she will until she finds a solution. I think it was just the other day we were working on this, and she's like, well, I'm just going to keep Googling, and she will find that solution. She brings to Radjoy and to all of us what can happen when we stay persistently committed to the dreams that keep us awake at night. And when you love something so much, part of that loving is to know when to let it go. Grit, devotion, persistence, fierce, funny, tender, creative, generous, hilarious, recalcitrant, adaptable, worldly, intrepid, wild heart. And so we're going to take a moment here to offer a tribute, and it seems only fitting that a tribute to Trevi would be acts of beauty. The words people sent in, I'm not going to be able to read all of them. We're going to turn them into an art project. And if you have words that you want to have added, I'll put my email in the chat, and you can send me 3 words. The challenge is to come up with 3 words to describe Trevi. But what we're going to do right now is a little bit of a ritual. And so I'm going to ask if I could switch to gallery view, Katie, so I can see everybody. Yeah, thank you. And let's kind of just, I'm going for about half an hour here. So let's kind of get in our bodies. If you need to stand up or move, shift around, just kind of feel your breath. That breath, it's really connecting us all across the planet. And if you're willing to be able to go on video, this would be a really kind of a moment to let us see you, if that's okay with you. And in a moment here, I'm going to count to 3. And when I do, I'm going to ask us to make a gesture of love and appreciation towards Trevi, to really offer, offer a gesture. And to kind of hold that posture for a moment, we're going to take some screenshots that'll be part of our offering. And maybe as you hold that posture, you may say some prayers and well wishes, just to unmute there, but saying them out loud to Trevi so that we can really offer our deep gratitude and our well wishes in this next phase. So go ahead and kind of get in your body. And Katie and Amy, if you'll be willing to take some screenshots. And just feeling all that appreciation in whatever way, even if you're brand new to RadJoy today, just letting whatever love and gratitude comes forward for you. And count of 3, we will offer our gesture and hold our posture and prayers. 1, 2, to you, Trevi, 3. Radical, joyful, resilient, wholeness, seasoning beauty, insuppressible, courageous, loving, maven, dedicated, open. Trevi, I hope you're taking all of this in, and we just kind of, maybe if we want to, there's some movement we want to offer to you there. Oh, hugs. Trevi Johnson, who through the course of her life has been a true adventurer, a multimedia producer, street sweeper. I haven't heard that story yet, but I would like to. Rites of Passage Guide, founder and former executive director of Radical Joy for Hard Times, and author. Author so far of 5 books, 2 dedicated to RadJoy, 101 Ways to Make Gorilla Beauty, and You've Made the Earth More Beautiful. She is also a wonderful friend and mentor. And Trevi, I just want to say to you personally, one of the many, many gifts I've received is I can hear your voice saying, it's so beautiful. It's just so beautiful when you talk about the earth. And for the rest of my life, I will have that. This earth, it's just so beautiful. And of course, so are you. Inspirational, iconic, incorrigible, intrepid, precision, arrow, listener, lover, raven, spunky, radical, huggable, embodied love of earth. And so without further ado as well, Trevi, I turn it over to you. You're up. We thank you. We love you so much. And the ripple effects of what you've done here radiate out for generations to come and beyond what we can measure. And thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Well, I have to say this is a little bit hard to take. I'm feeling pretty overwhelmed right now and very emotional. Yeah, as Amy said, the vision for Radical Joy for Hard Times was in the work. It was in the making. It was gestating for a long time before it happened. And it started with David Paulus, who is here. He is an Oneida man, an engineer, and when I was doing multimedia production, I found out about him and we did a video about him. And he's going to tell you, hopefully the technology works where he is. He's going to tell you about what he said that moved me so much. But the essence of it was that wounded places, waste places are not, they're not bad. They're not to be thrown away and discarded. They're orphans from the circle of life. And that touched something that was just innate in me, because I had always had the sense that the earth was alive, that God was the earth and the earth was God. And that's where we all arose from. And so the idea that things, that places, beings, other things that were hurt or discarded could somehow be made beautiful and loved back into life again. It just touched me. And so for almost 20 years, I've tried to figure out a way how to bring this forward. And I led a ceremony after September 11th in New York City. I led a week-long vigil in a clear-cut forest. I tried various things and finally decided that the way to do it in a way that would benefit the most people and spread the word to the most people would be to create a nonprofit. So that's what happened. And I had been, my whole life, I'd been a writer, and I knew nothing about business. I'd never had a 9-to-5 job. I was always self-employed. And I really wanted to do everything right. So when I created Radical Joy for Hard Times, I figured out how to write a business plan. And there was this group of people called SCORE. I can't remember what it was, like retired executives. And they would meet with you for free and go over your business plan and help you out with it. So I go to this meeting and there's 8 white guys sitting there. And I gave my plan and I finished speaking, and there was this dead silence. And then finally one of them said, "That's not a business." That's not a business. And that it just woke up my deepest fear, which is that I am this crazy white American woman who thinks that it's a good idea to go to places that are hurt and love them again and make beauty for them and bring them back into life. And but it turns out that's not the case. And those of you who are here today, thank you so much for coming to this celebration, which is, it's a celebration of Radical Joy for Hard Times' evolution. I don't want it to just be about me. It's about Elizabeth and what she's bringing and what we're bringing together forth. Because what we have learned through these Global Earth Exchanges and the other programs is that people all over the world, no matter what your ethnicity, your religion, your profession, your background, we love the places that we love. And when something happens to those places, to hurt them, we hurt too. And to introduce a simple, effective way of giving back to those places and being reconnected with them, something that doesn't need to cost money. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to plan in advance. You just give back and you stop and you pause. And the Global Earth Exchanges and the other events show how that's really worked and how people all over the world care about doing this. And for me, it's been a huge learning experience. Sometimes it was very discouraging. But when Christy and I were talking about this, I said, well, one of the characteristics of me is that I don't give up easily. And sometimes that's a really good thing. And sometimes I will hold on to an idea or a project or some kind of effort far longer than is good for me or sane. And yet I won't let go of it. I just keep on trying to make it work. But the time has come for Radical Joy for Hard Times to be in other hands. And they're going to be in really good hands with Elizabeth and with the new board. And Liz is going to come on later. We're kind of saving her for the end of this. and to tell you about who she is and what she has planned. And really, I believe that Radical Joy for Hard Times, even though those guys told me it wasn't a business, I was afraid it wasn't anything that would last. It has lasted, and it's more crucial than ever. And it's not such a weird idea anymore. We've been quoted, interviewed, published many things, and climate change remains the thing that's bigger than all of us, and we need to be protecting and loving the places and the species that are among us and that we're losing. We need to not turn our back on them, but to connect with them and feel our grief and give back. Because the way I've always looked at it, the earth gives so much to us. And with the simple actions that we can take with Radical Joy for Hard Times, we are able to give something back. And people all the time are telling us that they would go to these hurt places and maybe not even want to go. My friend thought it was a good idea. I didn't really want to go, but I went. And then you do these simple actions and something shifts, something really magical shifts. And you end up falling in love with a place that you didn't even want to go to an hour or two earlier. As another friend of ours from Radical Joy for Hard Times said to me recently, I ceased to think of a place as a victim, and it becomes a friend, it becomes an ally. And it's a magical process. I have no idea how it works, but it really, really works. And all of you who are here and many, many hundreds and thousands of others have made that happen. And I'm just, thank you for making it happen. And thank you, Elizabeth, for wanting to continue. And David Paulus, I'm sure glad I found you so that you gave me those words that have shaped my life. Thanks.
Chubby, thank you so much. Let's just continue with our gestures toward Trebby. And also it's a really great time in the chat to start to share like stories and expressions of gratitude in your direction, Trebby, for this beautiful vision that you've offered us in all of the wonderful and soul igniting ways of partnering action with beauty, with courage. So just keep it
Can I
coming.
say something?
Yeah.
This is David Paulus. Can you hear me?
Yes, David, we can hear
Hello?
you loud and clear. This is a perfect
Oh.
time. Go for it.
Because I've had trouble. I have trouble spelling Zoom, much less doing it. Now you can hear what I'm saying. Am I Trebby?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you. It's great. That's an amazing, beautiful shirt also, David.
Well, can I give my words now?
Please, it's all you.
Okay. I wrote this down because I was concerned I'd have troubles like this with coming on board. But anyway, I had received the National Science Foundation grant to develop a process to recycle hazardous waste from steel mills. My first step was to collect samples of these wastes to use in the research process. All steel mills produce these wastes and had thousands of tons of it in all the steel mills across the United States. I went to Kaiser Steel in Los Angeles to get my research steel mill waste samples. Kaiser had several 100,000 tons of these wastes on their property. It was a huge mountain accumulated since World War II. The mountain of waste was several stories high. I climbed to the top of these wastes and I said to the mountain, I have come to beat you and get rid of you. But then these words felt strong and it felt that something was not quite right. So I stopped and stared at the mountain. In my native Iroquois tradition, I was taught that in times of confusion, you should stop light a fire, take some tobacco and burn it and say a prayer for guidance. I had no fire and I had no tobacco on me at that time, but I did have a book of matches. I took out the matches and I did light one match by striking it on the match cover. A flame appeared and I said a prayer asking for guidance for this moment. The match went out and then smoke came up from the match. We are told that when a flame of a fire is lit and a prayer is given, the smoke that appears takes the prayer to the Creator. That is one of the teachings of my tribe. When the smoke appeared, my prayer was answered and I saw my mistake. I had told the mountain of hazardous waste that I had come to beat it and destroy it. I was told that if I fight this mountain, it will defend itself and fight me back. Then I was told what I should say to the mountain. I told the mountain that I had come to help this mountain, that it was taken out of the circle of life, that it was an orphan without a home or a family, and that I have come to help it to bring it back into the circle of life, and that I needed to, and that I needed its help to accomplish this. It was to help me do this. I then finished gathering my samples of the steel mill waste. I did develop a recycle process and went on from there. I told this story to Trevi because we had a relationship and we had a meeting at one point after that experience of mine. And I told her this experience about the hazardous steel mill waste. Trevi has created Radical Joy for Hard Times on an international basis with the help of all of you people in this presentation. You all have brought contaminated waste sites back into the circle of life and helped return these orphans to a home and actually a family. And Trevi, we thank you. There was one thing you sent me an email once and it said, how one small act can make a difference. And when I think about this and our meeting and everything, to me, it was a small act that made the difference. There wasn't anything particularly special about me or what was going on, but there was some value in the traditions and the understandings that many of our native people, indigenous people around the world, people who aren't indigenous as yourselves, but still grasp this idea that everything has a life force. Mountains, trees, grasses, winds, waters, it all has a life force. And you have tapped into it and you have been helping it. And I would like to say I reward you, but my checkbook isn't that big. But anyway, I really honor you for taking this small act and making a difference. Trevi, you've done it all. Thank you so much. I know all my relatives, the ones that fly, the ones that are on the ground, the waters that flow, they all thank you. And truly, you're a blessing that's come. Thank you. Now, that's it, guys. You can still hear me?
We can still hear you. Yeah.
Oh, good, okay. Wow, look at, my God, Trevi. Wow. Boy, for my date tonight, I'm going to try to get this picture taken and show her what I used to be. Man, that was in Florida at the where she had done a film on the actually it had a focus on me in part of it, but it was about the Oneida Nation and an environmental analytical lab that I started at my tribe.
1987.
1987, my gosh. Wow. So much has occurred. So much has occurred. And I guess it's time to be thankful for all of it and for you guys. You're doing your best. You help all of us. Trevi, it's yours.
David, thank you so much. Thank you for coming back to share this seed of history for Radical Joy for Hard Times, and to ground us in this really mighty story of not fighting a mountain and finding another way, finding the beauty way inside of that.
True.
Yeah. We're going to hear from, there's two more people that are going to share a little bit more, continue in the sharing around how Radical Joy has shifted their work in the world, influenced and informed them. And next we'll hear from Panu Pikala. Panu is a Finnish climate expert and focuses on climate emotions at the University of Helsinki. Panu is an expert in interdisciplinary eco-anxiety research and is really well known internationally for studies on eco-emotions. Panu is also an adjunct professor of environmental theology at the University of Helsinki and hosts a podcast on climate change and happiness together with Dr. Thomas Doherty. He has been awarded several prizes in Finland for his books about eco-emotions and has been engaging with Radical Joy for Hard Times for several years. So, Panu Pikala.
Warm greetings from a cold Finnish winter day. There are two frameworks in grief research which I want to name today as we celebrate Radical Joy for Hard Times and Treppe Johnson's work. These two are meaning reconstruction and continuing bonds. They both refer to the need to rework our emotional bonds when something is lost. People have an inner need to continue those emotional bonds. In the classic case of bereavement, this happens, for example, through memorial photographs. When something big is lost, our meanings in life also need reworking. People face the question, who are we after these changes, and who would we wish to be? I have found the methods developed by Treppe and colleagues to be very helpful in working through our emotional bonds with wounded places. For many years, I've experimented with these methods together with colleagues in Finland. In 2023, we had the great pleasure of welcoming Treppe to Finland for a road trip, which inspired many more people to join. In Finland, wounded places are often clear-cut forests, and there are powerful controversies among people in relation to forestry methods. Practicing guerrilla beauty is one way to keep up resistance and to testify to intimate connections between forests and people. In Finland, we have been searching for a contextual name for the method, and perhaps the following might be helpful also in other countries. Wounded place work. That happens first before Radical Joy might emerge. Wounded place work. Doing that locally can also help with the broader scale ecological distress and anxiety. The local and global coping resonate with each other. The Radical Joy for Hard Times network provides community-oriented methods for that deep work with meaning reconstruction that is so much needed in these times. And I'm very grateful to be part of this community.
So thank you to our friend Panu for sending this message for us to digest. Next, we hear from Joanne Martin. Joanne has a graduate degree in eco-psychology and has had a shift in worldview throughout her life, experienced a profound transformation while practicing and teaching people about developing their ecological identity. Joanne moved to Southwest Pennsylvania, which is gas fracking country, and dramatically altered her life plans. So she's now the executive director of Reimagine Beaver County, which is a grassroots initiative that's working to catalyze green economic development in the Ohio River Valley. And the work centers on how to replace harmful fossil fuel raw materials with safer biomaterial alternatives. She was part of the first ever global Earth exchange, and she painted a Rad Joy bird on her car, which we can see here in this picture. So Joanne, go ahead and tell us about how your work has been influenced by being part of Rad Joy.
Thank you. So I'm really touched to be part of this ceremony to honor Trebi and welcome Liz. Radical Joy practice was a portal for me, basically. I would describe it as, to really take on the challenging work and project, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about. The practice has taught me how to be tender and compassionate, I would say, while being an activist, an angry activist. But the anger was draining me, and it really wasn't fueling me in a positive direction. So I'm currently leading a nonprofit community project to build out an industrial hemp supply chain in southwestern Pennsylvania and the Ohio River Valley. And it is a long-term, huge undertaking. The motivation for this has been for residents to find a way to derail the petrochemical industry and the expansion in the area. Shell Petrochemicals built a huge plant here about 2016, 17 to make plastics. We all need plastics, right? We all need more plastics in the world. And when I moved here, I had just started my master's in ecopsychology at Naropa. And literally the first night of the master's thesis writing seminar, across the ridge from me, the giant tower of light was lit up. The fracking, one of the first fracking drill rigs here in the county where I lived in Beaver County. And so I chose the title for my thesis, Drilling Deep for Equanimity. And my confession here today is I don't think I've really achieved the equanimity, but I do keep working toward it. The Radical Joy practice, I was first introduced, I think it was Christy that actually took us to that coal plant at that program. It was probably in 2010, and that has carried me. The practice, Radical Joy, I was on the band for a number of years, has carried me through some dark times. And the practice in Radical Joy was a prompt for me to take action in my community in a different way. I thought I was going to do some eco-psychology work and teach about the practices. I didn't want to get involved in the activism and to be against the petrochemical industry. I hosted gatherings here. But yeah, like Trebi said, people thought it was weird. They thought this was too intimate or too personal. The land doesn't have feelings. And I was frustrated, but I thought, well, all right, here I am with Radical Joy. But it actually led me, my connection with Trebi and the work on the band, on the board, led me, it was like it kind of lit a light in me, and was an energy source that I would then draw on in this new direction. There were very few people here locally that were looking for alternatives to plastics and petrochemicals. And I joined with a group of community residents to host visioning workshops and identify what we thought would be better and safer industries. And that was in 2017, which was a long time ago. But we as a group, as a community, have continued to work, research, network, outreach, and identify what type of industry would be safer here. And finally, we received some grants to formalize this into a nonprofit work. And this is a visioning process. It's a generative process. And it was really a process that Radical Joy opened me to give me the strength to be able to be present to some pretty difficult feelings of my own, to be present with the land here that I hated. I literally hated it here because it was just being torn apart, blown up. And you know, week after week, I would go and sit by the river and stare at this former zinc smelter, which was becoming this lovely petrochemical structure. So, you know, the practice in Radical Joy helped me shift really away from the perpetrators, those who were exploiting, the focus on them, and how dare they. And it really helped me shift to look at the community differently, look at myself differently, look at this land differently. Just really transformed me from the inside out. And you know, this is protest work that we're doing, developing an opportunity or alternatives to plastics. We're pissing off Shell Petrochemical every day, and that's good. And it's audacious work, and so is Radical Joy's work. So is Radical Joy Practices. It's not conventional. It's audacious, and that's why they call it Radical Joy. So I'll close with that. My love to you, Trevi. My love to you, Elizabeth, and to all of you who are part of this beautiful work in the world. And thank you.
Joanne, thank you so much for your service, your dedication, your history with RadJoy, and for taking time today to share this motivation with us as well around activism and around how it is that we can reframe our perspectives. So the global Earth Exchange, is something that we've been hearing a lot about today, and many of us have participated once, twice, many times. It's our annual event. And what we know is that when people around the world go to places that they love that have been hurt or endangered, that are at risk, when they go there and they share their stories and they get to know the places as they are now, and they make the choice to give gifts, to make beauty, to give gifts out of the materials that the place itself offers, that it becomes a reciprocal conversation. It is the exchange. So we're going to take a look at some of the gifts that people on all 7 continents have made for places that are important to them over the past 15 years.
So that's the Global Earth Exchange. And one of my favorite days during these years of guiding Radical Joy for Hard Times has been putting those stories on the website. It's just seeing the ways people love their place and the depth of feeling and the creativity and the generosity. It's and you can see all of those slides and hundreds more on our radicaljoy.org website under stories. They're just so beautiful. So you've heard about the past of Radical Joy for Hard Times and a little bit about how people are taking it and using it in the present. And now it's time to talk about the future of Radical Joy for Hard Times. When I decided to step down for a time, we didn't know if Radical Joy for Hard Times had a future. And then Elizabeth Kaczynski said, well, I'd like to do it. I'd like to take Radical Joy for Hard Times forward. So she's doing it. And we've had a beautiful transition team for since July. We were only going to meet for a few weeks, but we really liked meeting, and we enjoyed the process so much that we've kept going. And Liz has a full-time job. She takes care of endangered species in Hawaii, and that's her job. And she was on one of the very first Global Earth Exchanges with Christy at Naropa, and she's going to tell you now about her plans and vision for the future. But first, I'm going to pass something along to you, Liz. So this is the Radical Joy for Hard Times bird, or a version of it. It was made by a wonderful ceramics artist from Haiti named Lisa Janot. And you saw one of her Global Earth Exchanges in the slideshow with all the little kids. And she made this Radical Joy bird for me. And I'm going to send it to you on Monday. It's going to come in a package for you. And except there's a covenant. So if you decide that you don't want to guide Radical Joy for Hard Times anymore, you're going to pass it on to the next person. So this will live. It's lived there on the table behind my desk for a long time. And now it's going to go to you. And to tell you a little bit about her own vision and about herself and about how she's going to take Radical Joy for Hard Times into the future, here is Elizabeth Kaczynski.
Thank you so much, Trebi, and thank you so much for everything that you have done to create this wonderful organization. And also thank you to all the past board members and our new wonderful team. I think just to give a little context of how I became associated with Radical Joy I was with Joanne, who just spoke. We were both doing the same eco-psychology program, and a couple of our other classmates are on here, Shay and Lacey, and it's so wonderful to see you. But I actually, when I did the first Global Earth Exchange with Christy, I thought, oh, this sounds really interesting, but I didn't think I would, because I didn't have a connection to this place in Boulder, Colorado, where we did it. But it turned out to be a very profound and moving and very deep experience for me. And it really speaks to me of the magic of Radical Joy, because it's so it's so experiential. And it's really, the heart of it is really the practice of it. And we really hope to bring this practice more and more into the world. I know this is a time, it seems like more than ever we need it. And that is sort of the inspiration for me of why I wanted to keep Radical Joy alive, is I continue to hear from other people about how important this work is and how much we need it. And we just didn't want to see it go away. So my story was really how I ended up in Boulder, Colorado, was because as Trebi said, I work for conservation, has been my career in Hawaii for well over 25 years. And we're known as the endangered species capital of the world because we have lost so many species here. And it's been really challenging for me to go into places and see the devastation and destruction. And that actually ultimately, my work gave me the great privilege to work in Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument, where I was out there for like 3 months at a time with 2 to 3 other people. And it was this pristine, beautiful environment, but there was extreme debris, fishing nets, just garbage everywhere, even though it's like some of the world's most remote islands in the world. And it just, the grief and overwhelm, but also the beauty was just such a profound experience for me. And it led me to pursue eco-psychology. And my work was really about climate grief, eco-anxiety, and that kind of topic was just so part of me. And at the time, it was really hard to find information, but Radical Joy for Hard Times and a few other people, like the work that reconnects and Francis Weller's work, really informed me. And I'm just really, really grateful. Eventually, I became a board member, and just really grateful to be a part of this organization, because it's such a near and dear work for me to do this work in the world. And I really want to invite everybody who's on this call and who's listening to the recording to become a part of, you are Radical Joy. We are all in this together. We really want to expand and build more and more partnerships, I see it as expanding this net that's already been woven throughout the world, as you saw in that beautiful map. Like everywhere, every continent has had a Radical Joy practice, and we want to expand on weaving that net and develop more partnerships and further collaborations with individuals, communities, other organizations, groups. We're hoping to build a community of Radical Joy ambassadors to help us spread this work. And eventually, we're hoping to offer online trainings, classes, and events to support people who want to bring Rad Joy into their community, to deepen connections to place, honoring our pain for the world. And we're also hoping to expand by creating a European satellite with Harriet Sams, who goes with Trebi. Also, we will continue to do our global Earth Exchange Cafe. So once a month, they will continue to interview people. We're planning to go slowly at first, just so that we can get grounded, get really grounded in the business side of Radical Joy, and then focus on doing our 2025 Global Earth Exchange, which will be on June 21st. And then from there, we hope to start expanding and growing our organization. Trebi, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just I guess I would just add that there are so many ways to practice Radical Joy for Hard Times. It can be spontaneous. You're walking on a path, and there's debris, and you just stop and you look and you make something beautiful. So I just invite everybody to think about ways to support Radical Joy for Hard Times, to support Liz, to give her lots of encouragement, to join the Global Earth Exchange on the 21st of this year. And we depend on donations, so this is a little bit of a financial pitch as well. There's we're going to have an email in the chat, a link in the chat where you can make a financial donation, and we appreciate a donation of any size. $5 to $500 is gratefully received. And I just I'm so happy to know that Radical Joy for Hard Times is continuing in the hands of Liz and a wonderful new board that we have put together. And I'm just so grateful, and grateful to all of you for being here.
I would also add, if anyone wants to reach out to me, if you have ideas or organizations that you can think of that we can connect with, or if you're interested in being part of that ambassador team, please reach out. I'll put my email in the chat as well. And yeah, thank you everyone for being here today.
So we send our most generous and wholehearted congratulations and well wishes, both in the direction of Trebi and also in the direction of Liz, in this really gorgeous timeline or story that we have around origins, around history, around the present moment of Rad Joy for Hard Times, and around the future and where we're headed and what we can imagine and see for this organization, which is so much more expansive than simply a nonprofit organization. We're a movement. We're an embodied set of practices that spark reciprocity, conversation, and brave acts of beauty making between humans in the world and all of the species that we're so deeply kin and connected to. And so we're really like lucky on the end of this call that we have a little bit of extra time. We have a little bit of extra time, which is a nice gift for this community today. And so invitation to, if there are like 2 or 3 stories and or visions for the future of Rad Joy and words of affirmation and gratitude toward Trebi and Liz, it's a beautiful time to hear them. And we'll practice, you know, some of us have this way in common where we practice kind of getting to the heart of the matter and speaking our truth. Like, say what you need to say. Let us hear you and get to the heart of the matter. So if you would like to share a short story, please just raise your hand. Raise your hand with the reaction button. So if you look at the bottom, you'll see a raise hand function like this, and it goes like that. And then you can lower your hand once we see you. And we're just gonna open up space for a little story sharing. All right, so Judy Todd has raised your hand. Great, go for it.
Okay, I will. I want you to know that in addition to all of her other talents, Trebi also can change a mean broken tire. So I had the good fortune to go with several of you, some of whom are on this call today, into Canada to the west side of the island at the Carmana-Walbran forest, which was a combination of young trees, ancient trees, and a lot of clear cutting, which was active while we were there, although we were not in the clear cutting area, but we could see it from many, many angles. And it was one of the best journeys of my life. I think what I learned there is that no matter where we go, we belong there too. And so it doesn't matter where we are to enact radical joy for hard times. It can be in our daily life, stepping out our own doors. It can be visiting a friend in the hospital. It can be taking a trip across the country. It can be at our job, you know, at our computer. It's really what I've learned from Trebi and from the years I participated is it's really about a living commitment that we can regenerate at any time. So I'm very, very thankful for that lesson. Thanks, Trebi. And Liz, I welcome you into this new role and look forward to learning more about your vision as well. Thank you.
Beautiful, Judy. Thank you so much. I love what you had to say about anywhere that we go, we belong there. It's where we can find kinship and connection. That really puts into perspective how deeply engaged we can be in our listening experiences as people as well. Yeah, so the invitation remains open. If there is anyone else who has a short story or a blessing to offer, this is a great time. This is a great time. And in the meantime, just reading out a couple of these stories that came into the chat. And I'm actually going to remove the spotlight so we can just all see each other for a bit. So Thomas says, Trebby, you changed my beliefs and helped me to recover and reground the sacred in our embodied and mortal lives as wounded creatures, discovering a beauty in wounded places on earth that opens creative generosity, that opens creative generosity. Andrea says, thank you, Trebby, for your vision, for your courage, for your heart. I think we all know and feel that. It's a familiar experience being in proximity with Trebby. Ryan says, all from the lighting of one match, from David's beautiful story, all from the lighting of one match in lament and praise, bringing beauty to the wounded places, slow activism, loving the world back to life. Can we be that audacious to love the world back to life? Thank you, Trebby, and all for keeping this flame burning, for keeping this flame burning. And let's shift to Liz. You know, we have this like passing of the bird, this symbol in flight, this connection of flock and freedom, of beauty making and audacity. And so Thomas also offers, thank you, Elizabeth, for stepping into this particular moment of transition, for Rad Joy's future leadership. Thank you. Thank you. I will reflect on new ways that I might support you and Rad Joy. And we continue to evolve with all of the living beings on Earth. From Anne Stein, this is a wonderful experience of being with the global Rad Joy community. Just look around one more time. Look around, we have 3 pages full of, like, just think about how much this call represents in terms of relationality, place, species, history, ancestry. Anne says, my heart is beyond full and inspired. I hope we can meet again as a global community and inspire each other to keep going no matter what. This is something I've been hearing Anne say a lot recently, is keep going no matter what. And just taking a moment to ground this celebration, this experience that we have all said yes to today, to ground that to, this is my cat, Zach, to the collective experience of these times right now. There is a lot going on in the world. And these words from Anne about, like, just keep going, no matter what, keep going with gratitude. So as we've said, there's so many beautiful ways to get involved. It can be from the private world of your beauty making. It can be from the interconnectedness of your human relationships and choices, you know, making choices to get together with friends, family, to meet new people, to participate, whether it's in a global exchange or elsewhere. And also to just continue to follow the lines of action too. And so let's see, it looks like maybe David, would you like to speak as well? We have just enough time.
You're on mute, David. I see you, but we can't hear you.
Now can you hear me? Okay. I was just saying that as everyone was talking, I wanted you to know, I went back to that site where that 1,000 tons of waste had been. And from history's point of view, the steel industry in the US actually went way down, died. And that mountain is totally gone. And where did it go? I have no idea, but it doesn't matter. It's gone, and all of that area has come back in, and there's industrial things going on there. There's warehouses there. There's other companies, and I think that's a bit of a happy ending. It was cleaned up completely. So thank you, and thank you.
What a beautiful way to close our time with this gesture of like, thank you and thank you. And thank you. Just thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Beautiful invitation. Polly said maybe we can all unmute and say goodbye.
Yeah,
Let's do that.
yeah.
Yeah, not too many people still on, but thanks
Thank
to
you.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks to
Bye.
all. Thank you all so
Bye.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Lots of love to you all.
Love to you.
Up to you, Lacey. Wonderful to see you.
Likewise, Liz. Love you.
Love you.
Chubby, I just want to say to you, I've just met you, but especially after today and, being on the band now, but especially after today, I want to thank you for giving us a home, for
Aw.
creating a home, for all of the things that you believe in that we do also to come to.
Thank you, Jill. So glad you're part of the band now.
Yeah, thank you. That's very kind. Thank you.
Well, everybody, it worked.
Ta-da!
We did it. We did it. We did it.